Everybody, welcome back to another episode of What the Devil. Today, Dylan and I am joined with Yusuf and Marcel. And on this podcast, we listened to the comments and we saw the amount of comments of people roasting Marcel for not being able to pronounce our new manager's name right. So we have been going through it.
Yes,
and just for the people, Yusuf, if you want to give a full how to say his name.
Well, apparently his first name, I was watching a video in European Portuguese. Apparently it's actually Shuban. Please don't refute me. I did. Like, if you are Portuguese, feel free to correct me, but, you know, I'm not an expert on Portuguese. I have been to Lisbon once. I'm not an expert on Portuguese, but apparently it's Shuban, and then I think it's Amorim. I think that's what it is, but...
So we're saying, so its name isn't Almiron.
Almiron.
It's
Not Almiron,
Shuban
bro.
Amorim. Or Ruben.
Almiron sounds like a transformer or something. Yeah.
Almiron plays for Newcastle.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
he's literally an attacking mid for
That's
Newcastle.
Marcel moment.
But
yeah, so
Shuban Amorim.
yeah, we've heard the
Amorim.
comments. Marcel is now schooled.
Yes.
But it's the international break, and when the international break comes around, you know, the narratives go wild. They go flying. It's always the same clips we see coming up constantly. The same narratives get blown out of proportion. But one that since the Leicester game has really kind of taken hold in the United community is Marcus Rashford. Probably, I would say, the most continually divisive player out of everybody, just in terms of, because he's, at the end of the day, he's born and bred Man United. He represents the club and everything that Man United want to say they are. He's been one of our best players since Alex Ferguson retired. If you kind of take everything into consideration, only player to score 30 goals in a season since, what was it, Robin Van Persie? Like 2012, 2013. But at the same time, since he scored 30 goals, he got 11 last season. He underperformed massively under Erik Ten Hag in Erik Ten Hag's second season. So far this season, he's had moments where he's looked fantastic, like against Porto and stuff. And then also there's been substitutions. He's come off early and he's looked off the pace in some games. And I just, want to spend a bit of time delving into Marcus Rashford. Yeah. What's next? Where does he fit under Ruben Amorim? Because I do feel like, if Marcus Rashford's staying beyond this summer, which I would expect him to, I don't expect the club to want to try and push him out in the next year. But I would also say that this is his final chance. Because let's say Ruben Amorim stays for 4 or 5 years at least, which is, touch wood, what we want, right? Marcus Rashford's then, at the end of that, this is his manager for his late 20s, early 30s. That's where, a player's meant to be.
27 now.
That's the guy. That's where you're meant to be. That's your best, at your peak.
Your prime, yeah.
And so, Marcus Rashford, where do we see it now? Where do we see it in the future? And should he go?
Well, we're gonna go on down the positive, optimistic route that he stays and he becomes a world-class player in his prime, because a lot of people would say that maybe he doesn't make it and that he should be sold based on the last maybe 2 or 3 years and maybe even beyond that point. He's usually a season off, season on kind of guy, but I think he just needs a reminder and hopefully Shuban Amorim is able to kind of give him the reminder of the player that he's meant to be for our club. I think he's going to be a striker though going forward. I can't see him playing in that left forward position or in that right forward position. I think he'll have to become a forward in the team, and it's competition for places at Manchester United. It should always be that way. I mean, in our prime, we had Teddy Sheringham, Andy Cole, Dwight York, and Ole as well, competing for two positions on the pitch in a 4-4-2 formation. So maybe you have Rashford as your more senior player and Højlund and Xerxes competing for the forward line, or you get a world-class striker in. But he's shown us that he can score a lot of goals within a season. His mind's not here though. Sometimes it just looks it's so sad that he looks depressed sometimes. He looks like he doesn't want to play for the club. He's put his body on the line. Under Ole, reports are there that he's played injured and those kind of things for us. But at times it just looks like he's not here. Someone like Amorim should be able to, cultivate that and just give him a reminder of who he is. He can score 30 goals in a season. You can help lead this team properly. And, he's had articles, before speaking about, how he loves the club and things like that last season. And somebody just needs to speak to him. I hope that, we can kind of support him in the way that he needs to be supported. And if I was, somebody in and around him, being able to speak to him, I would be definitely trying to remind him of who he can be and who he is and what moment he's in right now.
Do you think, though, that, so you mentioned about, going to go down the positive route of him being is that something you're just hoping for or something you think can and or will happen?
I'm always optimistic about this football club and where it's going to go and the players within it. Majority of the time, obviously, there's players that I don't, from their body of work or their tenure at the club, I don't like them, or I'd think, okay, no, it's best that they definitely should go. But and one of them would be Maguire. But then even within myself now, we've got a new system. Maguire can do well in this system, you know. So you have to kind of, not a clean slate, because you're always going to be judged on your previous work at this club, but it's like the likes of Maguire has a new chance to reinvigorate his career here. You know, he's now going to be in a back three system, and we didn't like him, or me personally, I didn't like him in the back two system, and it wasn't working. But there's going to be two other defenders in and around the vicinity. He's a big physical profile. He can play the long passes, so there's an opportunity to be optimistic and positive about him. And it's the same for Rashford for me. You know, at the end of the day, you know, a new manager's going to come and look at you now. This has happened. This story's happened again and again and again, but from what I've seen in the wide left areas from him, and even in the wide right areas, it just doesn't look good anymore. But as a forward, I've seen him under Ten Hag sometimes play in the front line. I've seen him score goals in the front line when he was in his best season, the 30-goal season. And even I think under Van Gaal, I think he started off in the striker position. You know, and so I believe that he can definitely do this, and it would be a really, really good, positive time and a good time for him to become this type of person in his prime. He's 27 now. He's not a young person. We're looking at the team for captains, and yes, Bruno's there, but he's pushing now 30, 31, I believe.
He's just turned 30.
He's just turned 30, so maybe, you know, I don't think there's going to be much more of a peak. And unless he's something like Modric, then we're hoping for more good football from him. And it depends on what Amorim produces or cultivates from him. But I think Rashford can do this.
I do agree. Like I say, out of hope, out of everything, is that Rashford is back to becoming, you know, the Marcus Rashford that realistically, I'd say we all know, I think most of the audience would agree, at his peak, know and love. Like I feel like deep down, there's not many people around United who actually don't want Rashford at the team or don't like Rashford at the team. They might not like the current Marcus Rashford due to, obviously, all the circumstances we've talked about in terms of poor form and maybe not feeling up for it and ready or displaying that he is or so. But I would love nothing more than for Marcus Rashford to become that guy once again, because he's inside our top 20 goal scorers ever, I think. He's, appearance-wise, he's now really racking up. I think it's like over 400 appearances or something crazy like that. So since he made his debut in 2016, been at the club, as I say, debut like 7, 8 years ago. The debut was fantastic. He's at his best, he's an electric player, and I would love to think he still has it in him, and I really hope he does. Obviously, we don't know. We're gonna find out, aren't we, the next like season or so? Yeah. But I say hope more than anything. I just really hope and want him to get back to it. But I do also feel like the chances of that are becoming slimmer as time goes on. And, you know, I just really hope that Amorim can, because he's going to have to change him, isn't he? Like, in terms of, like, the one position that Rashford excels more than anything is kind of that left forward role. That's the one role, I'd say, in Amorim's system that doesn't really exist. I don't know, you may know more than me, Yusuf, on this, but it's more like, if there's a striker and then 2 10s in the wing backs, they're kind of in a bit of a formation like a tree. So therefore, the two areas, like right and left wing, there's no one there specifically for the system. So I think Amorim will probably have to change him around, like or find something for him. But I really hope he does. But Yusuf, I want to turn to you now about Marcus Rashford. Kind of your thoughts. Where do you think he would fit in?
Well, I mean, in the system, I would say Ahmad's very suited to that right inside 10 role. I think it's a bit misunderstood by people. They're not just going to be like never wide. Like you can play wingers there and they can go wide, but I think Rashford is a player, when he starts on the inside, he struggles a lot more than when he starts wide. And this is a common misconception people have. They say, oh, we'll get Rashford off the touchline. What he's at his best at is when he starts wide to come inside. When he's actually starting on the inside, he struggles a lot more with his awareness, with his movements, all of it. He struggles a lot with it. Unless he's playing as a centre forward, which he can do. It doesn't get the best out of him, but in this Amorim system, if Amorim is going to play something similarish to what he does at Sporting, striker is probably his best bet. Against a very direct system we talked about recently, very direct system. He wants to get his attackers in the channels, running in behind. That suits Marcus Rashford, but it suits Marcus Rashford as a striker, and it's going to require almost a little bit of sacrifice from him. But another problem is Amorim will want to press with Manchester United, and if he wants to press, Højlund has to be a striker. Because Rashford and Xerxes in the press are not the same players as Højlund. Højlund, you know what yes, sometimes his understanding lacks, but he's always going to give you intensity. And he's always going to give you a lot of intensity. And that's like one of the big differences Højlund has over
for sure.
the other two. And I think also Højlund in the box, his movement is so much better. I know this is a kind of, people have this misconception that he doesn't move well in the box, he doesn't get on the end of chances, but for me that's actually more because our players don't pass to him. Like I was at the game last Thursday, I was genuinely losing my mind seeing some of these opportunities where he is making fantastic runs and they are just ignoring him. We keep trying to...
The Europa League game?
Yeah, the Europa League game.
Okay.
We keep trying to pass to the spaces he's created, not to the ones he's actually attacking. Like, he will be running in the 6-yard box. The logical thing, flash it across the 6-yard box. Defenders hate it. He's timing his runs well, but they just try and cut it back to like someone attacking that space
Behind
he's just
him.
left. Yeah, and you know, it's not working. Like, okay, every now and then it's good, but sometimes just flash it across, man. Defenders don't like facing their own goal. They don't like the ball low and hard across the box.
Yeah, I was
Just
going to say
do
that's something that Scott McTominay benefited off a lot last season,
Yeah,
wasn't it? Is that
definitely.
like if Højlund's creating that space, it was McTominay who was arriving
And
in
McTominay
there.
was very, very good at arriving, and I think people are saying, oh, what, McTominay's getting the end of chances, Højlund's not. McTominay was partly getting on the end of chances because
Højlund was
Højlund making that space for him. And it's credit to McTominay as well because he was doing very well to attack those balls, but Højlund played a big part. But back to it, Rashford, I think striker is his best bet in the Amorim system. We'll go on to this later, whether it will stay the same system, whether he might move to a back four in the future. But I think striker is his best bet. I think he struggles on starting on the inside. But more than anything, I think he just needs to he has to find himself now or it is not going to last. And I hope he finds himself. I think we're in agreement. We hope he finds himself. But I kind of Mark Rashford, he just needs to spend a couple of days watching the Spider-Man movies. Just watch it, take some notes and come back, right? Find your inner hero, bro. But
It's actually not bad advice. They're good movies.
Just genuine
They're
advice. Really good movies. But there's actually it's that story of struggling with who you are and trying to find yourself. But Spider-Man aside, Rashford he's got to find himself, and I think this is the big struggle. He plays within himself so much. He's just we said this before. When he's on it, right, he will do whatever he wants with the ball, and no one will stop him. But he just is so rare now, whether he's on it or not. He has so many opportunities to take his man on, to take a shot. Maybe it's an ambitious shot, but he can strike through a ball very well. Take the shot sometimes. He's played good creative passes this season, but it's just been so passive from him at times this season. Leicester was a really, really bad example of this. He just didn't want to do anything against Justin, and Garnacho came on. Garnacho is a far less efficient player than Rashford, okay? He's not got the same physical skills Rashford does right now. He's not as technically good as Rashford is either. But Garnacho made a big difference just because he went for it. He had that bravery. And with Amorim, it is a thing of can he change Rashford? But you know what the hardest thing to change is a player's mindset. Right? The hardest thing to change the player's mindset. Now, Amorim is a fantastic man manager. He will get the best out of players. He will generate their buy-in. And if he can consistently get Rashford just show him how good he is. He needs to know how good he is. And if Amorim can coax that out of him, we will see a fantastic Marcus Rashford under Ruben Amorim. But it is so hard to do that to any player. It is hard for me to do that with my under-10s to change their mindset. So a 27-year-old, it is not easy. When it gets to that point, it's really not easy. So the more time goes on, I do really wonder how it's going to pan out. But I would hope to see him stay and succeed because I think his story with this club is a beautiful one, and it is not one we'd want to see him come to an end in such a way.
Do you think that maybe a reason Rashford struggles on the pitch is due to the larger squad problem of there not really being a system and pattern of play? Because it's something that Gary Neville, in a general sense, mentioned, I can't remember which game it was, maybe the Chelsea game, is that he says he can't see patterns at United, and I tend to agree in the way of there's not or at least there doesn't seem to be a fallback option, a plan B where if their game's gone a bit haywire, but Alessandro Martinez is on the ball, the players go, okay, I can slip in here, I know he'll go here, I know he'll go there, and they can set up and readjust and reset themselves. I feel like at United, we don't have that. If a game goes a bit haywire, a bit chaos, we then seem to lean in that direction, either for the better or for the worse. Either for the better because we then start bombing forwards, gunning forwards, which is something we quite do well under Marcus with Garnacho and stuff in the team. Then equally, we turn chaos mode in defence, like against Porto, where the game we were 2-0 up, and then it shifted. and so we just kind of obliterated ourselves at the back and ended up conceding 3 goals in like 25 minutes.
I think we have a system, and I think there were principles, even some patterns, but principles for me are more important than patterns. But the problem was, I don't think the players are ever fully bought into that system. So at the first kind of sign of trouble, and there were plenty of signs of trouble, and that's going to happen when you're transitioning, when you're in rebuild. At the first signs of trouble, players reverted to what they know best. They reverted to their own kind of instincts. They started playing their own games rather than what the system wants them to be. And now a good system gets them working in harmony with what they want to be as players. To a relative sense, okay, yes, you have to make adjustments in yourself, but I think also, like, there was that, but players, they reverted to type almost. But Rashford, I don't know, he just has generally looked quite passive. And I think the system hasn't helped at times. I think more than anything, what didn't help Rashford was not having a left back, because we know that with Shaw, he's a different player, because Shaw making those runs, sometimes he plays that underlapping pass, yes, but also sometimes, like when Shaw overlaps or underlaps him, that makes the space for him to go inside. And this is what I was talking about, starting wide to come inside. Having a natural left back helps him to come inside because
they can
of
make
the
like
dynamic.
an underlapping run, which gives him the space
they
to
make
run
the
into.
runs which give him the space. With a natural right footer, you're always going to look to play inside, but it clogs things up a little bit more. But I don't know what has happened to Rashford, to be honest. I think you can only say so much about the system, because even this season, I've seen him in so many situations which I'm like, Rashford can do something here. Rashford can take a guy on one-on-one. Rashford can go for goal, like drive inside, go for goal. Rashford can play like a big pass, but he just kind of doesn't, unfortunately.
Do you think then, moving slightly wider onto the general system, I say obviously the big change with Amorim is, bar I'd say the 2-10s, it's the defensive line, which is like the big, I suppose at United, revolutionary part of Amorim's system. There's obviously, you talk about, does he play a back 3, does he play a back 4? It seems to hint that, I think he said in an interview that he said, he wants to get his minutes, his principles in, what he knows, and what he knows is that kind of 3-4-3 formation.
Yeah.
He wants to get it in quickly. But there obviously is the argument that there's a lot of these players who have never played a back 3 system. De Ligt, I know he said he has, because he's played that sometimes.
Yeah.
But and then for most of these players, bar the odd game under Solskjaer, and most of them didn't even play under Solskjaer. They've not played a back 3 system. So, kind of, I would pose the question, is it the best idea to go to a back 3 system? I think it is. I think, if you're going to do this, if you're going to tear up the blueprint of the whole thing, you may as well do that from minute 1, because the earlier you establish it, the quicker and sooner your players are going to be able to understand it properly.
Yeah.
And he's got a couple of weeks, and there are players who are in rehab who he's met yesterday who he can kind of start feeding the information in. You've got potentially 6 centre-backs soon back. Don't know about Maguire, but the other 5 seem to be, getting in shape, getting ready. And then the second, third question is more, which is what I'll let you talk about, Yusuf, later, is how does that affect the more general team structure? Because obviously more defenders, and then wider players affect how the front line's going to play.
Of course.
But
yeah.
I'll start with the centre back question to you, Marcel. Do you think it's best he immediately goes back 3? And also, who are the back 3?
Yeah, well, I'm really, really happy that we're gonna finally scrap the whole 4-4-2, 4-2-3-1 book for our football club. I think it's gone a bit stale now. We've had so many managers try to, motivate these players, change players. We bought players that kind of passed their time in like Falcao or Schneider, Schweinsteiger. We've tried to throw money at it. We never really tried to change the system. And in the Premier League, we've seen I think Tuchel's Chelsea with a similar 3-4-3 or 3-4-2-1 kind of system, similar to basically the 3-4-3 but collect a Champions League, and Conte's 3-4-3 I think also collect a Premier League title. So it can be successful in the Premier League, if that's not a question of doubt in my mind in terms of that aspect of things. But we do have centre-backs that can, play this system, and good centre-backs that can drive and carry the ball. I would say in Euro we have a generational centre-back that would thrive in a free system. If, I've seen reports that we want Branthwaite potentially. If you
we
get
definitely still want Braithwaite, 100%.
If you get Braithwaite as a left-sided centre-back in a free as well, he can defend the wide areas. Then you've got a leader or potential leader, in the future in De Ligt, and he's already taken up that mantle and that role in previous
I wouldn't
clubs.
even say leader in the future. I think right now he's been brilliant in the last 2 months.
And then you're also, for me it's a squad game now. I've learnt that from the Ten Hag era, that it's a squad game at the end of the day. So you have a Martinez available on the bench. You have someone intelligent like Lindelof who would look better in a free than he would always. He looks horrible in a two.
I think Lindelof goes this summer.
Well, he's out of contract.
Well, he could. It's potential to stay or get a better quality centre back like a Diamande in there. But
funny enough, Lindelof was actually an old teammate of Amorim.
Yeah.
I
think with Lindelof, it's a case of maybe. His contract's up in the summer, so obviously once the window opens, he's not at United anymore. But I'd say he would be lower on my list. So I'm assuming Johnny Evans is gone, right? I'm assuming he's not coming. This is his last season at United at least. Harry Maguire, he's got the +1 option which United will activate. You mentioned before, obviously he could thrive in that system.
He could thrive in the
system.
But
I think there's actually a chance I would rather keep Lindelof than Harry Maguire at the club, just because, well, A, you can get a bit of a fee for Maguire in the summer, and B, I feel like Lindelof would more happily take the role of fourth or fifth choice. Obviously, first three choices play in the back three.
Yeah.
Fourth or fifth choice, I don't know if Maguire would take that role because he would still want to get in the England squad and stuff.
Well, we don't know. I feel like he's right now. Currently, he's happy for this. I'm always seeing reports that he's fighting for the place, and I think it's because of the wages.
He always will, and I think he wants to stay at United. But it's very 50-50 for me as to who I would rather see leave, because Maguire I think is the better centre back. Oh. But I also think that Lindelof might suit the role of playing a fourth, fifth, sixth choice centre back better.
Well, for me, Dylan, all of them should leave. But in my mind's
all
eyes,
of them?
Yeah, in the terms of Lindelof and Maguire, anyone that's not Euro, De Ligt or Braithwaite or Euro, De Ligt or Martinez, the rest can all go. It doesn't matter to me. But because you need that you're every week you're choosing 3 people, so you're going to need to refresh that in a cup game or in a Europa League game. You need a high number of centre backs.
We need to remember as well as that Euro is 18.
Yeah.
He's a fantastic centre back. He's 18. You don't want to throw him in the deep end.
Actually, it's his 19th birthday today.
Oh, lovely.
But the point remains. Sorry, keep going.
No, but I do hear you. I mean, he's a young centre back. But then again, De Ligt's been in that scenario before, and Martinez is also a good centre back as well. I think because there's so many players in that backline, not so many, but there's an extra one in there. I just feel like you have colleagues that you can rely on. He can defend wide spaces. I would be playing him every game week for me. And then he's going to have most probably Mazraoui just in front of him, who's a fantastic player, I think, as well.
I love Mazraoui.
He's a really, really good football. What a good purchase that we've made with him. And I think it's just the back three feels like there's a bit more security there now in the defensive line. And then he's got 2 other players in front of him. I think he'll be perfectly fine to play as much games. Just hopefully that ankle situation doesn't come up again and flare up again, or Achilles situation, should I say. But I think it's revolutionary for us. We've played the 4-4-2, and Ruud, he got us results, but it looked a bit stale. The 4-2-3-1 for the longest now has looked a bit stale, and it's been Bruno-centric. We haven't been able to get past Bruno being the main creator or as the 10. With this, you're going to see maybe Kobe and Bruno fighting for the left forward position, maybe Rashi, but I think he should be a striker, maybe even Højlund. Højlund, I think, might be good. You were talking about the underlaps from somebody, or the overlaps around Rashford. If Rashford's running into the channels and he has somebody doing overlaps or underlaps as Højlund, who's good from attacking in that left attacking mid space and driving with the ball from there, you could see maybe combinations from there.
Surely you want Højlund as the furthest man forward, though, because if let's say, you're not wrong, Højlund is quick, fast, strong, and he seems very intelligent, as you said, with his where he runs and how he makes his runs, but you want those qualities in your striker. And if we have Højlund doing underlapping runs for Rashford, we then have Xerxes up front, which isn't going to work.
No, Rashi.
He's saying Rashi up front,
Rashi
and then
up
Højlund
front,
in the left.
Basically, you want Højlund running the channels.
Well, you can have both, is what I'm saying. But and it's all about combinations.
So that's then like more of like a 3-4-1-2 rather than a 3-4-2-1 type thing.
No, 3-4-2-1, but Højlund in the left attacking mid spot sometimes.
He'd be better from the right, to be honest.
Yeah, maybe.
Because he's left-footed.
Yeah.
Partly that, yeah, like coming inside as his stronger foot, I think he's shown some good runs to the right. I think it'd be good for Højlund's development to have a few games in those slightly wider positions. I always reference that Henry played wide for Wenger before he became the striker in that 4-4-2, and a lot of forwards, you know, Van Persie, another one, he actually played wide early in his career. A lot of these top forwards played wide in their careers,
Messi.
but you have to balance it all out.
Yeah. I think this formation has that level of balance as well, but it just requires so much hard work from the wide players, and I'm talking about the ones in the midfield line, because obviously if we're playing against an inferior team, then we're going to have 5 in the forward line, but if we're playing against a team that's better than us, then we're going to have 5 in the defensive line. So it just requires a lot of work from the wide players to cause the overloads and give obviously your right forward and your left forward space. But I would think that Højlund could do one of those left forward or left attacking mid or right forward or right attacking mid positions. Obviously, not in terms of ball retention and dribbling ability and good in the half spaces.
He's actually a pretty good dribbler.
You think so?
Yeah.
I didn't enjoy his dribbling.
His touch,
yeah.
He's not a bad dribbler, but I do feel like his touch sometimes gets the better of him.
Sometimes it gets better of him, but you know what doesn't help? The passing details in this team are so bad. So his touch can definitely be better, but we make it hard for him to control the ball, not easy for him to control the ball. If we were making it easy for him to control the ball and he was still miscontrolling it, then I'd say, yeah, completely it's bad. But his first touch, yeah, it needs work. I'll always say it needs work, but we do not make it easy for him to show his quality. That Brentford game, right, when we were firing the ball into his feet, but we were playing good passes into him, he didn't really have a problem so much. So it's more about, it's not as simple as just saying, oh, his first touch is bad. Like, you've got to look at situations, you've got to look at the details on the passing. There's so much more to consider.
Does that kind of tie into the point you made earlier about principles? Like kind of being able to make your passes.
That's not even that. That's just stripping it back to the very technical foundations in that the players in this team technically are not at the right level, in my opinion.
Yeah, I got to say, when watching the sporting games, or every single one of those sporting players is technically sublime.
Yeah.
They're all so perfect
all of
for
these
Amorim.
players.
But I think as well, to a certain extent, Amorim's made them like that. So a lot of people, especially after the City game, were saying, this Amorim ball, this is fantastic, because obviously they were playing a more stronger opposition, but at the end of the day, they did play City off the park in the second half. First half, I know they didn't, and I know City, they still missed a penalty and stuff, but I think Sporting did definitely play them off the park, especially with their second goal. But everyone obviously was then talking about being like, Amorim was like, I can't play this football at United. And so
I disagree with him.
Amorim, what he meant was he can't be this defensive as Manchester United manager, because United aren't defend. They're meant to be attack.
There's also the fact that the players in this group are different to the ones he has in his sporting group. He can't replicate it exactly.
You can't replicate it, yeah, but I meant more in the way of, I think a lot of the people talking about are the technical proficiency in the sporting team.
The physical
is better for United,
as well.
But I also think as well, that's because Amorim made them that way. They didn't come that way. So I think there is also a lot of, I know I said this last week as well, in that squad, there's especially the younger ones and in the academy, anyone basically under 25, I'd say, they're so easily mouldable. There's a lot of there that he can work with.
As well, like Hugo Viana, who's actually going to be City sporting director, he did a lot of the recruitment, so they've got aligned recruitments. They've bought players who Amorim can work with, and Amorim's then taking them to another level.
Isn't that exactly what we're doing, though?
That's what we're trying
Amorim doesn't have a
do.
veto, but he doesn't have a veto, but he's got say. And obviously, at this point, Omar Barada seems like he's just full sending the whole Amorim thing, because Omar Barada was the big one who got Yoro in. It was him that basically convinced them. Obviously, plus Rio Ferdinand, whatever, talking to them. And then Barada was the one who was, Varane too. Barada was also the one who pushed for Amorim more than anybody, I believe, as far as reports are concerned. So I feel like and then Dan Ashworth being, Mr. Clever recruitment guy, along with Christopher Vival, who's our head of recruitment, I think, for the next year or something at least. I think we definitely are going that direction of Amorim doesn't necessarily get a veto of who's coming in, but the whole point is we're looking at players who can be Ruben Amorim's his core, like those guys. And I think half that squad's already here. I really do.
I mean, so just on that style of football thing about, when Ruben kind of mentions that he can't play this football at Manchester United, I don't, like, everyone's kind of interpreting it in different ways. Yusuf, you're basically talking about the actual profiles of players. He can't replicate it, similar to what Ten Hag almost said, that, he can't, do that style of football because the Ajax players are the Ajax players and the current Manchester United players are the current Manchester United players. So, but... And people are saying that, the expectation, similar to what you're saying, at Manchester United is attack, and he can't play counter-attacking football. But Ole did counter-attacking football. Mourinho did call it counter-attacking football here. So I think it's let's see what happens and how he adapts it. But I think usually, and even Ten Hag done counter-attacking football, usually the Manchester United manager has to come in here and start with a bit of let's teach you how to defend first, how I want you to defend, and produce what we've always done very well is counter-attacks, 70, 50-yard dashes with quick passing and score goals, and then we can push the lines further up and take the next step. So
but then that highlights the problem. We've only ever, since Sir Alex Ferguson, we've only ever been able to do counter-attacking football, and when we start to push them out a little bit more, which is what Ten Hag tried to do, it always falls apart.
And like what Louis van Gaal tried to do.
There was a report yesterday, I think it was, about targeting players who are physically intense, robust players. We don't have enough of that at Manchester United. That's part of the problem. There was, I think it was that second Sporting goal or the third one, I think it was, where they had the corner, where they won the penalty. They won the ball back off a corner. The pressing I saw to win that, they were determined. They were not going to let City out.
So their life's
on the line. Their life's on the line. They were pressing like mad dogs. Right? When have you seen Manchester United players do that?
Just Bruno, and he does it like a headless chicken.
Yeah, Bruno picks his moments very badly, but we don't have that same level of physical. And a lot of times because the player's not physically capable of it, but we don't have that physical intensity, and that is a massive problem. When we're looking at these issues, technically, not at the right level. A lot of issues with the passing details, technically inconsistent within the squad. Physical intensity, how can we build a winning team with that?
I think we have the 3-4-3 right now, and if he's able to stick with it, I think it's the most adaptable and versatile formation in the world.
I love it as a formation.
I think it's the best.
I've always loved three at the back. It's dangerous, it's fun, it's exciting.
Depends how you do
different.
it, to be honest.
It does, because everyone says three at the back, you play one way, either your wingers are up, or your fullbacks are up or they're behind. You either got five in front, five in defence. It's much more versatile than that. But it's just always a formation I've loved, especially if you have a centre-back who can step into midfield.
Yeah,
he's got two, I'd say both De Ligt and...
Euro,
we don't know. I'm not counting Euro because I've not seen enough of him. But I'd say definitely De Ligt and Martinez are two defenders who can step into midfield should it be needed. Yeah. And I think that is going to be really good. Because he's basically, it's like a box in midfield, right? With the two attacking and that's two midfield.
That's what he used after kind of Ugarte left. Before Ugarte left, it was actually different. He had a single pivot and actually pushed more players into attack. So this just shows he's not this rigid coach.
He's a good coach, man. He's a very, very good coach.
He's not married to one idea.
Yeah.
But he knows how to use score properly. What I do want to move on and ask before the end of this is about left back. I think it's the most or the least nailed down position in the squad. Let's assume people are fit, right? I'm going on the assumption that players are fit and they'll be fit for the rest of the season. I know that's a massive assumption considering who our left backs are. But I'm not going to count Diogo Dalot in this actually because I'm going to say, if anything, he's going to be starting right back. But you've got Shaw, Malacia. I would throw Mazwari in there just because he's been so fantastic. And then you've also got the option of... I wouldn't say Hamas again because no debut yet, but you've got the option of someone like Garnacho becoming because that's been proposed as a wing-back option, or Anthony, for example. You've got a lot of players in there who
could Anthony out there.
Who could, whatever. But just in terms of to show there's 5 or 6 players if you do count Hamas, 7 if you count Dalot as well, who could play that position. And who should play that position? Should it just be Luke Shaw? Do we go back to that? Because at the end of the day, he's, assuming everyone's fit, he is the best left back in the club. Or is it better off having Shaw as a second left-footed centre back?
I think Shaw can do both. To be honest,
there.
Shaw can do both, and I think we need to try and get as much out of him as we can, which is increasingly less these days, unfortunately. And I do feel for Luke Shaw. I think when people complain about him so much, they do forget he did have like a double leg break at 19, and it's not easy to come back from that. And the number of injuries he has had, even he said himself, it's frustrating for him more than anybody. And you can tell from how he talks and everything, he really does love United. He's really very committed to the club. So it is a shame for him, but I think the wing-back position is probably best to put Shaw there for now. If we keep him past the summer, I could see him transitioning into that left-sided centre-back role, and I think he could do a very good job there. I could see Garnacho. I could see wingers being used in those wing-back positions, and we'll touch more on this later, but I could see academy players getting opportunities in those wing-back positions.
Well, because maybe it's quite a safe position to be, just in the way you've got protection and you've got midfielders and a striker, and
it's not necessarily because there's a lot of demand on you, especially off the ball. But
it's hard work.
Amorim has used wingers in those wing back positions at Sporting, and this is where I might go into tangent back on the whole back 3 back 4 thing. It's really not. It's a nominal formation at the end of the day, but you can have that 3 with a wing back tuck in and that shifts into a 4, and then the other wing back goes high and almost becomes a winger. Or, the other way around, almost like a wheelbarrow. I think Louis van Gaal's got a very good analogy on this. So not a wheelbarrow, sorry, steering wheel, right?
Yeah.
One tucks in, one goes high. One tucks in, one goes high.
Just depends on what side of the pitch the ball is.
Yeah,
or what end they
but
want to
that's
attack.
you could have, and he's used wrong-footed players there as well. So that's where Garnacho could genuinely be an option at left wing back. There are things that would need to be worked on. Garnacho could be a genuine option at left wing back because what he does in terms of how he builds out, he tends to go out to his wide players and then come back inside the pitch. So if you've got a natural wrong-footed player there, you do have the option of going inside the pitch. And if that wrong-footed player is comfortable on the touchline, which Garnacho is relatively, then you get the width in attack as well. So actually, there are a lot of possibilities. I would still say Luke Shaw is the best option there. I don't think Malacia is a wing-back type player. And to be honest, I think Malacia will go on loan in January and then be sold in the summer. We will need to buy a left back in the summer, and this is crucial here. I would buy a left back and not a wing back.
Alphonso Davies would be great.
If he's actually going to come, I think he'll go to Real Madrid. But if he'd come here, brilliant. Owen Brad, if you can bring him, please.
Hey man, the last time I said I think he's going to go to Real Madrid was Lenny Yoro. So
yeah, bro, that's what I'm saying, bro.
We've done it once. We can do it. I'd love Davies.
I'd love Davies.
Davies
at the left back.
But I say it's crucial to buy a left back who can play wing back and not just. It's such a niche position, wing back.
You don't want someone like a Victor Moses type who's only fantastic as a wing back.
Like a Marcus Alonso.
Yeah.
You don't want that.
Any fullback from that Antonio Conte side.
Yeah, pretty much.
yeah.
You want a proper fullback who can play wing back. Davies could do that. There's a few guys in the Premier League who would be good options.
Anthony Robertson.
Yeah, he'd be fantastic.
Wolves, Ait-Nouri.
You have to think about Amas's pathway as well. I don't think Amas is ready to play just yet. I would, keep him in the squad.
Yeah, he's 17.
Keep him in and around the first team.
He can come and join and become a proper squad team first team member when he's 21. That's still 3-4 years away.
There's a few things he still has to work on to be ready for senior football. He's obviously a huge talent. I really believe in him, but there's things he has to work on.
You've got to learn. Not everyone's Kobe Mainoo, man.
Bring me Ait-Nouri or Alphonso Davies. Ait-Nouri or Alphonso Davies.
I would personally love Lewis Hall if we could get him as well.
And then
Newcastle.
And then maybe
you think we're going to be able to do a deal with Newcastle for anyone?
Oh, not now.
They hate us.
I would personally love it. All right. I think he is absolutely fantastic.
And then put Luke Shaw as left centre back, and that's another option as left-sided centre back.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Luke Shaw's genuinely played very well in that position before when he's done that.
I think more than anything, Luke Shaw needs to become a centre back.
Yeah.
I really think for the sake of his career.
Yeah. Otherwise,
because he will be able to just be a better footballer without the demand on him. It's less intense. It's really physical, but he's very physical. He's huge. He's strong. He's powerful. He's quick, and I really don't think it's like the short burst and everything you'd have to do as a centre back. I don't think it's too much of an issue for him. It's the longevity of going up and down and up and down and up and down that left back all the time that will be an issue for him. It really does. And if we get someone like you say who's a left back who can play wing back, they can always interchange in the game. Let's say we want someone who's really good at the overlapping runs, and for half an hour we can shift Luke Shaw to left wing back and move that left back to left centre back or something. I don't know. But I think for the sake of his career, and at least for the sake for him to be able to get a new contract, he should genuinely convert himself to a left centre back.
Bring back Chris Wilder 2020, those overlapping centre backs.
Yeah.
That Sheffield United team was so much fun. Remember
Harry Maguire is marauding down the left back side also when he was at Hull.
Lundstrom on FPL that year, he was listed as like a defender or something.
He's a £4.5 million defender, and
he got
goals and
so many points. It was ridiculous.
But and we're touching on Harry Amos. Obviously, we spoke about a lot. You've mentioned that he still has. I think he's got a few more years where he needs to cook in the academy a bit. I think a lot of the academy players. There's great players who need cooking for next few years, such as like Shea Lacey, Chido Obi-Martin, etc., who are all very exciting players. And we mentioned their names on District, and all the tweets go flying. Every time Chido Obi-Martin scores, and we put a screenshot of the goal, 6,000-7,000 likes easy like this. But I think
Sekou Kone, speedy recovery.
Sekou Kone, he hurt his ankle last night. I mean, we'll see how that is. Speedy recovery. I feel like there are a lot of academy talents that are cooking in the academy, and I think kind of should stay there for a bit. But I was going to propose to you, Yusuf, about who actually do you think is next, who is ready, and who do you think we're going to see, even if it's more surprising names?
Yeah, this is an interesting one.
Because Amrim loves an academy.
I really think that our academy is in a place that right now where in about 3 or 4 years or so, we won't need to make so many kind of big name, big money signings, because the players in this academy right now are actually really genuinely good footballers who you can see affecting first team football sooner rather than later. There's a lot of guys who I think can genuinely come into this team in the next few years and make a big impact. And I really hope so. And the under-18s now are so well coached. They get developed so well when they get to the point. I really think these players will translate well. One player,
under-18 team, I just want to say for a sec, is an absolute joke.
It's the best team at the club.
It's an absolute joke how good those players are. They've played 9 games, won 9 games, conceded 4 and scored 41, I think.
And they are like, they're not like the older 18-year-old group, because under 18,
no, mate, they're
like 16, 17. They're not like 18, 19, 20 kind of group.
It's an absolute joke how good that team is.
To be honest, I think the academy system in England doesn't develop players well enough for senior football. I think because you have so many loan stuff. We do, but you know what? Like City do, Chelsea do. They produce good players, but you look at somewhere like Spain, Germany, where these big clubs, rather than under 18, under 21, they have B teams that kind of actually play in like the regional, like lower leagues. So Barcelona B, for example, are in like the second division of La Liga, I think, and they play against senior teams. And that's why obviously the under 21s played against Newcastle last night, and
Huddersfield.
Yeah, Huddersfield. Sorry, not Newcastle. My bad. Huddersfield, yeah, and they play like against these senior sides, and I enjoy that because they get a taste of senior football. It's a lot more physically demanding. You can be as technically good as you want. It's a lot more physically demanding. It's a different ball game entirely, and they're not blowing away. They're actually being challenged by the guys who they know they are technically better than. Right, they're more skilled footballers, but it's just that physical intensity and that demand is so different. It readies them, and I feel like this is why loans are so important. But in terms of players breaking through, obviously, Sekou Kone, I think the idea was always going to be he'd kind of make his first team debut later in the season. He'd get some games. I think Bendito Mantato, we could see him in and around the first team picture later in the season or early next season.
He's a right winger, right?
Right winger, but I could see him playing at wing back, almost similar to how Giovanni Quenda is at Sporting right now.
17-year-old, right?
Yeah, 17 winger playing at wing back. But Mantato, Lacey gets a lot of the hype, but Mantato I think is a bit more ready for first team football because he's so physically powerful. He's a really fantastic player. I think he could play in that wing back role. He's got the physical qualities. He can go up and down. He can obviously go high and wide, go both ways. He's a very exciting player. Ethan Ennis on the other side. He's played left, right, centre this season. He got an assist from the right last night, which was a very good assist. He's a big talent. I could see him in and around the first team picture. Shea Lacey, I think it'll take a bit longer than people expect because he has had a few injuries and stuff, and he still needs to get up to speed physically. When he comes in, him and also Jack Fletcher, they could play in those inside 10 roles. Could play in the inside 10 roles. Lacey and Jack Fletcher, I think there's potential for them there. Then we've seen Jace Fitzgerald on the bench on the weekend. He's a very good midfielder. Finley McAllister. There's a lot of very exciting players in the academy right now, in my opinion. Obviously, Toby Collier, he's injured right now.
What about the group that are still from the school of last couple of years or so, or Kobe's school in terms of, I think Dan Gore could still maybe make it.
Dan Gore's unfortunately in the tough spot. Dango's in a tough spot in that he went on loan, he got injured, and he's had a few injuries now, and now he's Dango's too good to kind of go back to the academy, but he's not really ready for the first team, so he needs a loan, but you've almost got to send him back to the academy, let him take the piss for a few games, and then get him a good loan. But it's really important. It's a tough. I feel for him because I really think he's a fantastic player.
I really think Wheatley needs a loan.
Wheatley needs a loan as well.
I think Wheatley really like he needs to grow physically.
Yeah.
Wheatley does.
He's an out striker.
He's an out striker. He's quite
lanky. Big. Yeah.
He's big, but he doesn't really like when you watch him, and also in the academy as well. I think he looks more physically in the academy, obviously because they're academy players. But I think he needs a loan to give him a few knocks.
I think Dango's ready to play, you know.
But the thing is, it's so hard to throw him in after injury and having such little senior time. It's so hard. It is so hard. So I think try and get him a loan if you can. I really hope we can do something because I believe in him a lot. The exciting one is Chido Obi Martin. I think. Yeah. I don't know about debut this season, but next season I can see it.
I can see
he's a bagsman.
He's getting a couple of appearances here and there, blah blah blah. But I would like to see him like properly stay in the academy for a few years and maybe like mature a bit in the academy. Yeah.
You know, physically he's already so dominant.
He's huge.
It's ridiculous.
He's got to be like 6'3", at least, surely.
And he's huge.
He's double the size of every other player in that academy. He's massive, and he looks like a fantastic striker.
He can strike a ball brilliantly.
But he's only 16. If you wait until
you don't want to throw him in the deep end.
19, 20 before he becomes a first team squad regular, give him years in the academy to probably get that. Like, so for example, like Garnacho, obviously, I think he made his first appearance when he was 17. But and then realistically, it was last season where or towards the back of Ten Hag's first season, he came on a couple of times as a sub, Garnacho, and then he started to really make his mark last season when he was 19 and he's turning 20 now. Yeah. Oh, he's just turned 20. That's the kind of path that I'd like to see Chido Obi Martin on. Yeah, I don't want to see many players on Kobbie Mainoo's path because I feel like only Kobbie Mainoo could really have done what he's done.
I think Obi Martin's one where he'll probably make his debut about 17, but in terms of becoming a squad regular, probably around kind of 18, 19 time. I don't know about 20.
It's also a position where you need to do that. With midfield, midfield, there's multiple midfielders and there's always a rotation midfield so you can do maybe what Mainoo's done. The same with wingers. There's multiple wingers. Like you can always put Rashford on for 30, but you still get your striker, still get your right winger, still got Bruno Fernandes. But if you're chucking a striker on, you're going to have to take off Højlund, for example, and then suddenly he has to play. It can't like Wheatley's debuts and his minutes here and there. Like
partly because
they're like nice and fine, but they're not serious minutes. If that makes sense. Yeah. Like, in order to give Chido Obi Martin real minutes, I really think wait until he's 18.
I think
19,
it's just more about giving him that taste for it and keeping him hungry.
Yeah, give him like a carrot. Yeah. Same. That's why players get debuts and stuff. But yeah, I think Wheatley definitely going on loan. Chido Obi Martin, I really don't want to see him too soon because we'll benefit from that in a few years' time.
There's one centre back as well. I think it's Kukonki, left-footed centre back. He's 16. He's already quite physically developed. He looks quite.
I don't know.
He looks quite interesting. My friend Nat, Football Nat, if anyone follows him, very, very, very good for academy stuff. He and the first team as well. He has highlighted him as someone who could do quite well, especially because he's a left-footed centre-back. There's potential for him to come in that left-sided role in a few years. There's a lot of players in that academy I look at right now, and I think these guys have a future in this team. And right now, what's also happening, the academy are playing a back three.
Oh, that's good. So it's happening right from the bottom.
They've already started playing a back three. And you know what's interesting as well? At Nice, another Ineos club, Frank Heiser, the former Lens manager, he's a back three coach. He's playing a back three right now. So I think Ineos actually do have back three ambitions.
I'm a big fan of that. But back three was always my formation on FIFA.
It's the best formation.
I've always been a 4-3-3 guy.
Nah.
But do you know what? I think this whole back three, back four debate is a little bit overdone. So me personally, I think the attackers in the team suit a 4 more, but it really depends because, like I say, it's just an arrangement at the end of the day, and what you actually do is different. So again, you'll have maybe one wing back who drops in and makes a 4, and one wing back who goes high. De Ligt said in his quote, we were playing a back 4, but towards the end of the game, we were playing a 3 in possession, and we've done that under Ten Hag a lot, where we play that 3, and a lot of the top teams do this. They play those 3 players in the first line. of possession. It is, at the end of the day, the starting formation is just the starting formation. It really does depend.
I'm excited for the back three.
If it works, I do
very
love a good back
excited
three.
for the back three. It's it's fun. I just love watching it because it's so different. It's refreshing. It's fun. It's this whole thing. It's Ruben Amorim coming in, all his new coaches coming. He's brought 5 coaches and an analyst. All the Dutch people have gone from the club. Sports? Just all of these. It just feels so. I know I said the same thing when Ten Hag came in 3 years ago or 2.5 years ago, but
it feels like a full refresh.
It does. And he's a young manager. I think we spoke about just for the podcast on. He's stylish. He's impressive.
Yep.
He's kind of imposing, and
he's got swag.
He does. Yeah, you're right. He does. But obviously, we'll find out against Ipswich. We've got another pod before then as well because it's the international break, and I hate the international break. But we've got to do it. Yeah. Wales are playing at some point later in the weekend, so happy about that. But thank you very much, both Yusuf and Marcel, for coming on. As always, guys, let us know what you thought in the comments below. Let us know if you agree, disagree. Let us know your thoughts on Marcus Rashford, on the academy players, on the defence, the back line, Ruben Amorim, everything. Remember to listen on Spotify and Apple Podcasts if you can't listen on YouTube. And apart from that, we'll see you next week.